Hello, Natalie.
Hello, Donna. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, good, good.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Where are you calling from today?
Toronto.
Okay. Oh, of course. Yeah.
Well, Mississauga. I
Yeah.
don't live in Toronto.
Yeah, it's all one big place.
Yeah. But it's good. It's nice today. Very
Okay. Hello, Jason. How are you?
Good. I just had to figure out how to unmute there. So
No problem. I totally understand. Kind of on these things all the time. They all work just slightly differently. And
Hello, everyone.
Mason, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Welcome. Hello, Mark. Welcome.
Hey, sorry about being a bit late. It sprung a last-minute update on me, so I'm here.
Great. No, I think you're right in time. We're just starting to get people signing on, so absolutely fine.
So did anyone watch the grass run this morning?
No. How was that?
Yeah, we won 200. We won the gold medal in the 200-meter, the grass. Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, I've read about it. I haven't seen it yet. I was watching some of the other events, but
it's interesting to see how different people approach the race. Because I mean, when he turned the corner of that 200-meter, he was, I think, 4th or 5th, and out of nowhere, just like the jets came on, and he just blew by everybody.
Yes. Yeah, you can never tell how it's actually going to work, and it can change so quickly because there's always somebody in the back who's like, yeah, I feel good. I'm going to see how this goes.
I feel like the only person I've seen run that fast is my 18-month-old toddler when my wife is prepping a snack.
Exactly. Annie-Claude, Aaron.
Hi.
We're just talking about the Olympics and the 200-meter gold that we've gotten. Elena? Just wait a bit longer. We've got Mark here from NRCan. We're expecting also Ian Jarvis and Marnie Devlin Moses pretty soon. There we are. Hey, Marnie. Jason, good to see you.
Hi.
I think there's going to be quite a few people not here today. It is August after all, but we want to keep things kind of moving ahead. And the good thing about this, we're making a recording. So if folks aren't able to be here today, I'll make it available so that they can watch at a later time. So I really think the building energy benchmarking is going to be an important component of all the things we're going to try to do at community practice. So it's kind of a good time in August to get that started. Just wait another minute or so. I'm going to try some new functionality today. I've got a poll that I set up, so I'll be making that live in just a minute or two. Okay. No. Hi, Amy. Welcome. Give it one more minute. Yeah, I hope everybody's been enjoying the Olympics. it's quite controversial when it gets started, but I think that even with COVID risk, it's pretty exciting. So I think it's going to be one that people will remember, anyways, for how odd it is with no fans in the stands. Well, Maureen, Julian.
One thing I found interesting about the Olympics is how one example is the Americans were complaining about an Australian swimmer who left too quickly. And here I am thinking like, oh, is it going, such a time difference? But they were complaining about 0.02 like seconds. And you're like, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I guess it makes a huge difference, but 0.02, you're like, my goodness, like who notices that?
Yeah. It's the difference between, being immortalized or maybe not remembered so much. It's kind of, it's incredible, really. Great. Okay, I think that's great. I think we got a lot of people here. Welcome everyone to our meeting today. Thanks for making the time to attend, and particularly to our presenters, putting all the work that they have into their presentations. So today we're going to be talking about building or campus energy benchmarking. And our presenters are Mark Lalonde from National Resources Canada, Marnie Devlin-Moses from the City of Edmonton's benchmarking program, and Ian Jarvis from the Climate Challenge Network. So I'm really excited to have them talk. I think there's kind of getting into what we're about. It's definitely building energy benchmarking is kind of the core to the community practice as I see it, helping provide value to all our post-secondaries and helping them ensure that they're increasing energy efficiency and doing it in a way that's really systematic and efficient in itself. Benchmarking can provide that kind of guidance. And so I'm looking forward to hearing from the presenters, and going forward into the fall, looking forward to kind of forging an initiative to gather more data so that we can do more analysis and provide more information to our participating institutions. Just to let you know, for the community of practice, one of the things we're also working on right now it's a big initiative is around EV charging infrastructure. So it's been focused in Alberta and in particularly the cities of Calgary and Edmonton, but there's opportunity to expand that. So we've been really lucky to unlock probably $400,000 or $500,000 worth of funding to help install EV chargers on some of the campuses. And we have ideas for how to do that across the province, and think that there's going to be opportunities across the country to do that as money's flowing into electrification. And our post-secondaries have a unique kind of place in our communities to help drive that type of initiative. So if you'd like more information about that or are interested in participating, just be sure to be in touch with me, and we can start working together on that. So our agenda is really to go through these presentations. I'm going to just do a quick, acknowledgement. We recognize the original inhabitants of Calgary, including the people of the Blackfoot Confederacy, Siksika, Kenai, Piikani, the Tsuut'ina, Ixadi, Nakota Nations, and Métis Nation Region 3. Obviously, we have folks representing all across the country, and it would take quite a while to go through all that, but we certainly appreciate that we're on the lands of our original Aboriginal inhabitants. I think our group is relatively small today, so we do have a pretty packed schedule. What I'm considering is whether we should say go through some introductions. I think if we can do some maybe quick ones, because it is good for our speakers to have an idea of who we all are and the kinds of institutions we're representing. So yeah, if we can do a quick go around, I'll just call out your names and you can just give a quick introduction. That would be great. I'll just go around from my view, kind of around the circle. Jason Moudry, could you just tell us a bit?
Sorry, Jason Moudry, Director of Campus Management, so oversee operations and facilities at Red Deer Polytechnic.
Thank you. Mason?
Hello, everyone. I'm Nishan Amiri. I am the leader of Alternative Energy Lab at Red Deer Polytechnic.
Excellent, thanks. Mark Lalonde.
Yeah, so my name is Mark Lalonde. I'm a program officer with Natural Resources Canada, and I specialize in institutional and commercial buildings, including post-secondary education buildings.
Excellent. Annie Claude.
Hi, I'm the energy manager at the University of Calgary.
Thank you. Erin.
Morning, project manager, facilities, infrastructure, and engineering at Red Deer Polytechnic.
Jason Schuler.
Good morning, facilities, operations and maintenance manager with Northwest College in Edmonton.
Welcome. Marnie Devlin Moses.
Hi, I'm Marty. I'm with the City of Edmonton, and I work sort of with our environment and climate resilience team on our energy transition strategy, particularly with our commercial buildings and institutional buildings.
Excellent. Ian Jarvis.
Yes, I'm Ian Jarvis, the Executive Director of Climate Challenge Network.
Welcome. Maureen Taves.
Hi, lots of us from Red Deer Polytechnic here. I'm the Associate Vice President, Teaching, Learning, and Research.
Oh, welcome. It's good to meet you. Trevor Morton.
Moving this way.
Hey, I'm Trevor Morton from Northwest College in Edmonton. I work with Jason.
Similar app.
Aman Hehar.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, my name is Aman Hehar. I am the Associate Director, Energy and Climate Change at Humber College in Toronto. First time with this group, so hello, everyone. Look forward to the discussion.
Welcome. Thanks for making time. Amy.
Hi, everyone. Amy Spark, the Sustainability Coordinator at Bow Valley College in Calgary.
Elena.
Good morning, Olena Olafsson, the Sustainability Coordinator with the Calgary Board of Education. So not post-secondary, but also large campus, and really interested in what this group has to discuss. Thanks.
Well, you're very welcome, and we appreciate that you guys have our school boards have large inventories of buildings that function in lots of ways similarly. So I appreciate that you're here. And on that note, Daryl.
Hi, Daryl Kaminsky, Energy Coordinator for Edmonton Public Schools, primary, secondary, obviously not campus, but yep, like Elena and CBE, we're looking to do more with our portfolio.
Julian.
Julian Poirier with the University of Calgary, Senior Specialist for Energy Performance.
Excellent, welcome. And Robert.
Rob Ackerman, Director of Facilities Management at NATE, and one of the two original post-secondary institutions that participated in the City of Edmonton's energy benchmarking program that started, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 5, 4.
Excellent. Yeah, no, definitely it's been going on for a while, and appreciate you kind of being at the forefront of that. So we look forward to kind of learning from your experience. So I'm going to go live with a poll that I've put together, and maybe it's a little bit long. It's the first time we've done something like this. And what is to try to establish some kind of benchmarks around this benchmarking program? What's going to be interesting to the group and where we might be able to get some value out of it. So I look forward to your input on that. I'll leave that up probably for quite a while. So we're going to go to our presentations now. What our plan is, my plan is that we'll start from big and go to the more specific data. So I'm hoping to start with Mark Lalonde with NRCan. So if you can bring up your presentation. Are you able to share your screen?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do.
Perfect.
Oh, but it says that you have disabled the screen sharing.
Well, here, I'll share mine. I'm not sure how I can, okay.
I guess in the meantime, we'll do a bit of stuff in my background. So I have a large dog who likes to be my office mascot. So if you do hear snoring in the background, it is not myself. It is my dog behind me. I apologize for that. And I also have an 18-month-old toddler, pardon me, who likes to run and sneak up on me in the office. So hopefully he doesn't go all ninja on me and scare me, but he should be going down for nap soon. So if there's a bit of noise in the background, I apologize for that as well.
I think we're all coming quite understanding of that. Are you able to see your presentation on the screen now?
Yep.
Okay, good. I'll control it. Just let me know when I should go ahead and whatnot.
Okay. So yeah, my name is Mark Lalonde. I work for the Office of Energy Efficiency here at NRCan. That being said, so I work more specifically with BIDS, the Building and Industry Division. And again, like I mentioned earlier, more specifically with the institutional and commercial buildings. So in recent years, I'm sure most of you have come by the PCF term, so the Pan-Canadian Framework. So that was our first go at trying to improve our greenhouse gases as well as energy efficiency. And through this action plan or this timeline, you can see that this has led to Canada also pledging to the Canadian Net Zero Emissions Act, where we're trying to push net zero by 2050. You can go next. So high consumption does remain a reality or a bit of an issue. So trends are sort of in the same direction. So this is from 2010, but still touches today. So in 2010, commercial and institutional buildings used roughly 1,057 petajoules of energy. So the equivalent of about 12% of Canada's energy use. And through this, to help lower the GHGs and to meet the net zero emissions by 2050, NRCan identified 3 major categories. So ISO 50001, which I'll get into later on in the presentation, codes and commissioning, as well as benchmarking with Energy Star Portfolio Manager, which I'll also discuss in this presentation. You go next. So just a tiny bit of background into BLD. So benchmarking, labeling, disclosure. Following the PCF, the Canadian government, along with the provinces and territories, developed a national climate change plan, so the PCF. And through the PCF, the federal government and territories, as well as the provincial governments, aim to require mandatory or voluntary energy labeling of building energy use, starting as early as 2019. And we have seen in the last decade, or even the last 5 years more specifically, a lot of BLD initiatives, whether it be voluntary or mandatory, have become popular. Among those, Government of Ontario has a mandatory BLD program. The Government of Quebec is leaning towards it. BC has a voluntary program, as well as some municipalities such as the City of Edmonton and City of Calgary have done their own BLD projects. You can go next. So through this, we have determined that energy benchmarking is the key to energy efficiency. And so what we've done is that Energy Star Portfolio Manager to us is a tool of choice for benchmarking. Energy, water, and waste all in one place. It's a free, bilingual, and secure online benchmarking tool that was made to help commercial and institutional building owners manage and track the energy use of their buildings or portfolio of buildings. So this tool was developed by the US EPA, so the Environmental Protection Agency, but adapted for Canadian use. Hence, it uses Canadian data for calculations, such as source energy factors and greenhouse gas emissions, as a bilingual interface, as metric and imperial measurements, and it uses data from over 430 Canadian weather stations, and currently has 86 building types that you can use within the tool. So Energy Star Portfolio Manager is a tool used to track and energy use of over 24,000 buildings in Canada, and that number is climbing monthly. We also like to announce that if you get a high enough score through this, after you input a year's worth of data, you get a score. If you score from 75 to 100, if you're an eligible building, you can become certified. So Energy Star Portfolio Manager, so certified building. It is to also announce that we do have a multi-unit residential building score coming out. And for post-secondary education, many of you will be receiving an invite to take part in the National Survey of Commercial Institutional Energy Use Surveys, so SKU, because with the goal of trying to develop a score for universities and colleges. You can go next. So next couple of slides, I'm just going to go through a quick couple of stats for you. So here you see just quick facts. Currently, like I mentioned before, there's 24,000 buildings in the tool. There's approximately 312.5 million square meters of floor area in the tool. There's 1.0 gigajoules per meter square of medium site energy use intensity. There's 1.4 gigajoules per meter square medium source. And there's 175 Energy Star certified buildings. I saw a little question pop up. I can definitely answer that at the end of the presentation if you want. You can go next. So here I'll just go quickly into some stats for Alberta specifically. So in Alberta right now, there's a total of 3,400 buildings, which is equivalent to about 42,500,000 square meters. And here on the left, you see the breakdown of Calgary and Edmonton. So Calgary has about 1,400 buildings in Energy Star Portfolio Manager. And Edmonton has about 775 buildings in Energy Star Portfolio Manager. You can go next. So here's just another breakdowns because I want to show you how many are identified as college and universities. So here's a rough breakdown of the building type in Energy Star. So here you see for Alberta as a whole, there's 125 that are identified as college and or university. And here it's broken down by Calgary has 70 identified as college university, and Edmonton has 45. You can go next. So why benchmark? You know, I've thrown you all these stats. Why should an institutional building or a university benchmark? Well, benchmarking is the key step in identifying opportunities to increase profitability by lowering energy and operational costs. Benchmarking is necessary for effective energy management. And through benchmarking, the key metrics for assessing performance are identified, baselines are established, and goals are set. This process helps to identify the key drivers of energy use and provides an important diagnostic tool for improving performance. By evaluating trends and variability in energy use, benchmarking can improve management's decisions on investments in energy-related projects. Developing a historical perspective on current and past energy use provides a context to those decisions. Benchmarking against the industry provides key insight into the competitive use of energy. Benchmarking demonstrates the value of an energy program and prospects for additional savings. It enables an organization to understand the opportunities lost by remaining average in energy performance and the benefits of progressing beyond the average. Benchmarking energy performance enables the energy manager to identify best practices that can be replicated, sort of like an internal culture change. It establishes reference points for measuring and rewarding good performance. It identifies high-performing facilities for recognition and prioritizes poor-performing facilities for immediate improvement. Now, what are you supposed to do with all this data? Yes, you can look at trends, you can look at how your buildings are doing, but how can you help take it a step further? Well, here at NRCan, we have a great program called ISO 50001 standard. So if you're going to go to the next slide. So the ISO 50001 Energy Management System is an international standard created by the International Organization for Standardization, also called ISO. The standard specifies requirements for establishing, implementing, maintaining, and improving an energy management system. The standard aims to help organizations continuously reduce their energy use and therefore their energy costs and their greenhouse gas emissions. The implementation of ISO 50001 Energy Management System is considered inexpensive, can be implemented quickly, and produces results immediately and generates ongoing savings. You can go next. I'd like to take a quick moment in this presentation to also recognize and congratulate MacEwan University for becoming the first ISO 50001 certified university or post-secondary institution in Canada. So here's a great example of a university that has used this program to sort of meet that standard and to improve under energy efficiency. And we will probably have a case study or a video coming out about this project. So you can go to the next slide. I'd also like to announce that to support the introduction of ISO 50001 energy management standards for commercial and institutional buildings, NRCan is offering a cost-sharing financial assistance program to help organizations with the implementation of the ISO 50001 standard. So in the late summer, fall 2022, we will be releasing a call for proposals for projects or for institutions that are interested in ISO 50001, pardon me. So here you can see some of the basic sort of eligibility or criteria of the program. So you get up to $40,000 per building, or max per organization per year is $200,000. And then here you see that there's different percentages for cost sharing and for eligible costs for for-profit and for nonprofit organizations. And the fun thing about this is that if you just take a step before this program comes out to benchmark your buildings, one of the eligibility criteria for this program is that your buildings must be benchmarking in Energy Star Portfolio Manager. You can go next, perfect. And now, last but not least, learning for not only your students, but your faculty. So Natural Resources Canada offers two main facets or two main venues for learning for faculty and for students. The first one being a free training in partnership with the Canadian Institute of Energy Training, CIT. And this is a free training on how to use the Energy Star Portfolio Manager tool. So it has a Portfolio Manager 101, 201, and 301 course, which is scheduled. So if you click on the link here, I can share a presentation afterwards, definitely. It has a link to all future training that we give for free. And now the second venue we offer is in partnership, so mainly through the US EPA. So the Energy Star Commercial Buildings College course is a resource that was developed by the US EPA to help teach about why energy use or why energy efficiency matters, the strategies for overcoming efficiency barriers, and how to benchmark a building using Energy Star Portfolio Manager. So the EPA at no cost and filled with real world examples and practical hands-on student activities has offered a free course that includes everything. So instructors can adapt to meet their needs and interests, whether integrating it into a full or in part into a longer course they already teach. Or by design, it could be a new short course or an additional course that you offer your students. This resource comes with everything, including assignments, evaluations, as well as slides and optional assignments. Next slide. And that is it from us at Natural Resources Canada. There is an email here. If you have additional questions that you may have forgotten to ask today or that you think of in the following weeks, or even if you want to discuss potential applications for our ISO call for proposals, just send it to that email and I have access to it, so I can definitely pick it up and have a discussion between myself, my senior management, as well as your organization. So Donald, I didn't know if you wanted to do the questions now or completely at the end. That's up to you.
No, I think it's a very good question itself. I think it's going to be most effective to address them after each presentation. So it's great that folks have put some here in the comments section, and if other people want to do that, that would be great as well. And maybe we'll have some that we'll ask as well. So I think, yeah, there's this question from Amy about whether the survey has already been distributed.
So thank you for your question. So it has not been sent out yet. This is just a forewarning. I'd have to ask my engineers within our technical team who they sent the email to within each organization, but it will be sent to post-secondary education institutions probably in the following month or so.
Okay, excellent, thanks. So there's a really specific question, and we may need to follow up. Do you know how many buildings there are versus how many buildings are in Energy Star? So what proportion of the buildings potentially available are actually starting to be loaded into Energy Star?
That is a very good question. I don't have those stats offhand, but if you do like, or if you would like to have those types of stats, you can send an email to that inbox number or email I had, and we do have a data request process where we can give you data.
Interesting. Okay.
Of course, some points of data are sort of aggregate data, but a lot of it is still fairly accurate.
Yeah, must be some estimates, but probably as we're just growing in our capacity to manage all this data, it's probably becoming more possible. Another question was with respect to the Universities and College Initiative, the EPA last year excluded tier diploma institutions. Will you be including?
That is a very good question. I actually don't have an answer to that right now. I don't see any issues with that, but that's something I could definitely take up with my senior management team to sort of get an answer for you.
Okay. Yeah, we have a few more questions, and I'm not sure if they're specific to you. There may be other people in the group who can answer this as well, if it's not specifically NRCan. Is CIT course only for faculty members? What about other college?
Yeah, CIT is actually for everybody. It's free courses that anybody can take. In my presentation, there was a link to the schedule for the training. Students, faculty, even project managers, energy managers can take that course for free. And I highly recommend it. It's very thorough. It's a great training that they developed.
Excellent, thanks. Yeah, it sounds like some other folks have also received the survey. Oh, but it might be from StatsCan. So
yeah, so
interesting.
It is. Yeah, so SKU is done with StatsCan. So keep in mind, we have multiple SKU surveys. So we have a survey for most building types. And with that data, they try to get enough data out of it where they can create a score. And so one of the next ones coming up is MERB, so multi-unit residential. But one of the ones we're really pushing for is post-secondary, so university and college. And so that's why this SKU survey going out, if you already received it, I wasn't aware of it being sent early, but it's quite possible. But we do have more series of surveys going out to universities. I actually had a chat with our head engineer yesterday, and he mentioned that there's still quite a few emails to go out for a SKU survey with universities and colleges.
Yeah, I think there's such unique kind of use case for the post-secondaries that it often is valuable for them to be looked at separately, but there's not always enough. And I think that's why partly our group can really play an important role in taking that information and really looking at how it can.
Yeah, if you guys get the SKU survey, please fill it to your best of your knowledge and send it back, because the more data we get, or the more data we collect, the more chances there are that there's actually a development of a score.
Excellent. And that's what the next question I was going to go to. Aman has asked, I haven't been using portfolio managers because there isn't a score available for post-secondary. And is there a benefit if there isn't a score like that?
Yeah, so to answer that actually, so there is a score coming, so that we've just discussed. We've had actually quite a few energy managers use Portfolio Manager to help establish baselines to apply for funding. So what I mean by that is that by benchmarking your data, it's a free tool. And so once you have a good few months of data, you can see what your trends are, right? And through those trends, or through specific metering or meters, you can see how you can improve and where you can improve. And so we've seen a lot of energy managers use the free tool, which is Portfolio Manager, and use it to help justify to their clients on why they should fund or why they should applied to certain funding programs or efficiency programs. So it is an amazing data set to have on your buildings and how you can improve, because even if you don't apply for a score, or if there is no, for certification, pardon me, or even if there is no score, you can still use your data to improve and to go out and get provincial or even municipal funding for your buildings.
Absolutely. And kind of adding on to that, Amanda, it's an excellent question. And we talked about that in the group that's kind of getting this community of practice going for post-secondaries. And what our expectation is the ESPM allows us to collect data from across the country and then use our partners, Climate Challenge Network, to really transform that data into information that will inform specific building types and managers of those building types on campuses, how they may be able to improve, identify those trends. So it's, there's two roles that it can play. It's collecting that data and then using that data partly through Energy Star, but also just, proprietary kind of approaches to really create information. And it's an easy tool to do that. And we'll be talking later about the potential to automate more of that process. So even now, there's a lot of manual process to enter that information, but there's opportunities to kind of work with utilities to make that a more automated process. So more of the time can be used in analysis. So adding on to that, actually, we do offer web services. So we've worked with multiple power utility and power providers, or energy providers, pardon me, on doing an automated system or automated data exchange, so that you as an institution would not have to go, input all this data, put spreadsheets, collect information. So right now, we're working with, I believe, NMAX in Calgary, but I know BC Hydro, Manitoba Hydro, there's NB Power, there's multiple utilities that do offer automated data services for their clients, so that you would automatically get your data input into Portfolio Manager to make it that much easier and less time consuming. So definitely that's one thing if you want to bring to your utility, that to sort of add that little pressure. It is a great program. I mean, we've had people, like utilities, just love web services as well as their clients. So if people want, hello? Yes. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm just getting ready for our next presentation.
Okay. Sorry. I thought my computer crashed. I was like, oh, okay. So web services is definitely another service that we help utilities and we help energy managers sort of develop. So if there's that interest, let us know.
Absolutely. No, that's great. I think we're going to get moving on. I know there's other questions. We're going to definitely get to those. Maybe not right at this moment, but I appreciate everybody's engagement in the topic. And this is exactly why we're meeting today, is to find ways to collaborate, to work together, to help all of our institutions improve their energy efficiency, save money, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and benchmarking is a way to do that. And with a presentation kind of on that line, Edmonton's been running a program for at least the last 4 years and post-secondaries there are really engaged in the program. So it's been quite successful. So, and Marnie Devlin Moses is here to talk about that program. Thanks.
Yes, thank you. So thanks for inviting me to talk about our benchmarking program. We're actually in year 5 of the program this year. So we're making some real headway here. So please go to the next slide. So I just wanted to really start to talk briefly about why and how this program started with the city and really what we're trying to achieve with it. So let's go forward one more. So the city of Edmonton has made some really significant commitments to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. And our energy transition strategy outlines our goals around climate change mitigation and how we really want to reduce the amount of energy we use and increase our generation of clean energy. And an update to this plan was actually released earlier this year with even more ambitious targets and measures. And while there's really a lot of areas of focus that the city wants to look at to reduce their emissions, one key area is really around commercial and institutional buildings, which is really the focus of our building energy benchmarking program to measure energy use in commercial and institutional buildings. Next slide. So as you likely know, commercial buildings account for about 40% of overall greenhouse gas emissions for the city of Edmonton. So any long-term energy and climate goals really have to address those emissions and the energy efficiency of these commercial and institutional buildings. So the challenge, of course, with this is that there's often a lack of information on building energy performance and really a high variance in the degree to which individual buildings are actually involved in their energy management. But essentially, you can't manage what you don't measure. So actively monitoring energy efficiency performance really makes it easier to target when improvements are needed and to measure success over time. So this whole idea of disclosure and transparency is kind of like nutrition labels on food or EnerGuide ratings. It really helps move energy efficiency into the market and increases that accountability. So energy labeling programs like Energy Star also create a standardized way to measure and communicate energy performance, which gives an opportunity to help with market transformation and to make energy efficient changes more economically feasible. So next slide. And for those, I assume everyone here knows what benchmarking is, but just from a definition perspective, Edmonton defines benchmarking as the process of comparing a building's energy and emissions performance to similar buildings and itself over time. So next slide.
Okay.
So the pilot program for benchmarking started in June of 2017 and included a few key pieces. So there was building level energy reporting, benchmarking, and disclosure, and the disclosure piece was optional. We targeted commercial, institutional, and multifamily buildings originally over 20,000 square feet, but we've decreased that number in year 4 to 10,000 square feet, and we decreased it again in our current year to 5,000 square feet to capture a larger cohort of buildings in the city. And of course, we use Energy Star Portfolio Manager to capture the building data, which is a great tool. And we try to lead by example by including as many city buildings as we can. And one piece of our program that we are sort of proud of is we offer an energy audit rebate, which is up to $10,000 towards an ASHRAE level 2 energy audit, which is a really valuable sort of information for buildings when they're looking at their energy use. And some of our non-financial incentives, so we provide each building with an individual building scorecard that looks at that building's specific details, energy use. We also offer utility data access for those who have multiple tenants and meters, just to make that data gathering process a little bit easier. And we have an awards and recognition event to acknowledge the really great things that people are doing. So next slide. So energy benchmarking programs have increasingly been implemented across the world. Canadian provinces and local governments are only beginning, although I think maybe it's more than just beginning to consider energy benchmarking. We're kind of down that path a little way with regulations. Various jurisdictions in the US and really Ontario are leading the way, requiring large buildings to report their annual energy consumption. Next slide. Let's click one more time, yeah. So just in terms of, I think there was a question earlier about like, what are really the benefits? So for participants, there's actually quite a few. So throughout our participants' involvement, you can access a lot of support services. There's toolkits and guides to support with making utility data requests, and of course, using Energy Star Portfolio Manager. We allow our participants to learn from and provide support to their industry peers. You can really see how your building's performance compares to others and get those individualized scorecards for your buildings. We help identify cost-effective energy saving opportunities to reduce operating costs. There's acknowledgement through our annual awards ceremony. Participants are eligible for the $10,000 building incentive for the ASHRAE Level 2 energy audit. We use Energy Star Portfolio Manager, which for those that were interested, actually provides seamless integration with some other programs like BOMA Best certification, LEED or LEED EBOM, which is existing buildings operations and maintenance. So if you're looking for those certifications, Energy Star Portfolio Manager integrates with them, so it gives participants an opportunity to sort of do one thing but serve several outcomes. Participants also receive targeted updates on relevant municipal, provincial, and federal programs and incentives, so they can maximize the benefits of those programs, possibly by stacking them and identifying and prioritizing energy saving opportunities and benchmarking. So as an example, the City of Edmonton has a program called the Building Energy Retrofit Accelerator, which offers energy efficiency rebates if you do some upgrades to your buildings. And eligibility for that program requires you to do benchmarking. So we've tried to tie those programs together. Next slide. There's also a lot of benefits that the city realizes from the program. So the first one, of course, is that we actually benchmark our own buildings. So we see where there's opportunities for energy efficiency retrofits within our own stock of buildings. We also participate and certify some of our buildings as BOMA Best, and that actually helps us meet one of our policy objectives with the city. It also helps us meet some of our greenhouse gas reduction targets and gives us data to measure to see how we are improving over time. And I think it really brings some profile to the city and helps with that idea of market transformation. So Edmonton was, I think, one of the first municipalities in Canada to introduce a building energy benchmarking program. Although I know that Calgary now has one, and I think Ottawa, and there's some others. So we're really trying to lead the way in this space of benchmarking as a municipality. Next slide. So just briefly, how does the program work? We start essentially with recruitment and outreach. And we already, because we're in year 5 of our program, we actually have a fairly large, significant base of participants. And we can really show the value of the program when we're trying to recruit new participants, which is really valuable. Once we start that recruitment, we do training for those who need help understanding the program, and particularly with Energy Star Portfolio Manager. Then we ask participants to register and consent to disclose their information, which is still an optional bit, although we have a pretty high rate of participation with that whole disclosure piece. I think it's upwards of 80% or more. So then participants collect their data, enter it into Energy Star Portfolio Manager, and then share it with the city. And we use a consultant to validate the data to make sure that there's no issues with it and that it sort of makes sense. And then we go through a public disclosure of data through our reports, and we create an online dashboard and awards event to recognize our participants. And the piece about the audit rebates is just an ongoing process that sort of continues. And so this is essentially the program cycle that repeats each year. And just a quick note, the participation this year in year 5 in 2021 actually involves reporting data from 2020. And that program registration generally occurs every year in the fall. So next slide. So I thought I would share a few key pieces of information and data that we have over the first 4 years and how it's evolved. So the program in year 4, we had 329 properties registered, which is up from 83 in year 1. So we've really seen a growth over the course of the years. That growth has been quite significant. Year 4 has 57 participating organizations. In year 1, we had 21. So again, lots of growth. And for year 4, the program represented about 564,000 tons of CO2 equivalents. But one of the really key bits and interesting bits of information is that last line there. It's the energy use intensity, which is the metric that we use to sort of determine a building's sort of energy efficiency, is essentially an expression of a building's total energy use as a function of their floor area. So basically a lower EUI means better energy performance and higher energy efficiency. So for those buildings that participated in years 1 and 2, they saw an average EUI reduction of 2.6% across all participants. I think it's important to note that just participation in a benchmarking program doesn't lower your energy use, but it's that increased awareness of how a building uses energy that helps you make decisions that can lower energy use. So in year 3, we were able to compare years 1, 2, and 3. And for those buildings that participated in those 3 years, the average reduction was 6.2%. So you can see that there's a trend. And again, in year 4, for buildings that participated in all 4 years of the program, the decrease we saw on average was up to 9.3%. So this is really just sort of demonstrating that whole, if you measure it, then you start to, your awareness increases and good things can happen. So this is really where the value of benchmarking comes in. Next slide. So again, this year we have our benchmarking report, our online dashboard, and scorecards available to each participant. So next slide. So this is our year 4 building energy benchmarking report. It was released in May and contains some really detailed information about the program, some building showcases, and of course our award winners. And I would encourage everyone to visit edmonton.ca/energy benchmarking to view this report. I think I put that link at the end of the presentation, so you'll be able to catch it. So next slide. And this is just a quick overview of our online dashboard. And this has kind of been, we started it last year and we expanded it again this year. And really the purpose of this dashboard and being online is really to allow that easy access to the building data. It allows for faster review and analysis, and really is a comprehensive look at all of the buildings in the program in one place. So it's actually really kind of cool to see. So if you have an opportunity to go and check it out, I would encourage you to do so. So next slide. And I know this is hard to see, but this is just an example of what our building scorecards look like. So it's actually 3 separate pages. And I'll just briefly say, or sort of describe what's on here. And they show each building category and the specific details of all the buildings in the program. And we've expanded the scorecard this year to include more information about building loads and suggestions for where improvements could be done to improve energy use. And we really hope this adds value to our participants when they review these building details, and the information that's provided will help inform decision-making around their building's energy performance. So next slide. One more ahead. So I just thought I'd give a quick look at all of the organizations. We have 57 organizations participating in year 4, and we're looking forward to really growing that number. And the City of Edmonton really is trying to be a leader in this area with benchmarking 120 of our own buildings. The next slide. So I just thought I'd take a moment just to sort of give some, what our participants are saying about the program. So from one of our participants, Trio Vest, benchmarking is an excellent program that gives us the opportunity to network with the local industry and see where our performance is as compared to our peers, giving us the ability to see our success in reducing our greenhouse gas footprint as we continually improve our systems. So next slide. And then from Boardwalk, the building energy performance benchmarking is a foundational element of our organization's energy management strategy, because you can't manage what you don't measure. So across their portfolio, we aim to make this practice a standard operating procedure and raise awareness around sustainability, the importance of energy management. And one more ahead. And from MacEwan University, who's a participant in the program, energy benchmarking provides objective, reliable data on energy use and the benefits of improvements, as well as contributing to increasing general awareness of energy efficiency among building occupants, which in turn affects changes in behavior. So those are all really, really important and key sort of, we like to hear those from our participants to sort of demonstrate that the program is working. Excuse me. And just in terms of, you can go one more ahead. What are we looking for in the future for our program? So we're looking at revisiting some of the program eligibility. So over the years, the city's benchmarking program has grown to over 400 local buildings. And our program team is really looking for new ways to keep the momentum going by expanding options such as reducing the requirements of our building size from currently 10,000 down to 5,000 square feet. And we're hoping that this move will actually attract new retail businesses in our strip malls and our business improvement areas, most of which are currently ineligible. So we're just trying to sort of include a greater proportion of the buildings in the city. We're also looking at ways to integrate our commercial programs within the city. So we have 3 commercial programs that serve different but really complementary commercial energy transition needs. So one of our programs is called the Corporate Climate Leaders Program, that offers an opportunity for like-minded local businesses to collaborate and reduce their energy use by looking at their scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions. We also, and I think I mentioned this before, have a program called the Building Energy Retrofit Accelerator, or BERA, that provides energy efficiency upgrade rebates to local commercial and institutional buildings. And of course, registration in benchmarking is already a program requirement for BERA. But I think that there's a lot more opportunities to collectively and effectively administer these 3 commercial programs offered by the city through maybe a joint application process, make the rebate eligibility between the 3 programs a little more complementary. So I think there's opportunities to integrate some of the programs that we already offer. We also are looking at collaborating on data sharing. So the City of Edmonton is really exploring some joint opportunities with its utility providers, like ATCO and EPCOR here in Edmonton, to discuss opportunities to share data directly with Energy Star Portfolio Manager. And I know that Mark talked about that, the whole web services. And I think, in Edmonton, we're really interested in having our utilities make that easier for our participants to sort of seamlessly share data. We're also looking at expanding our data collection in the future to look at some of the other bits and pieces that Energy Star Portfolio Manager collects. So information about water use and waste, because those things also contribute to our energy use. So really trying to expand our use of that Energy Star tool and make it sort of as useful to participants as we possibly can. So next slide. So just thank you. And that is our website, the edmonton.ca/energy benchmarking, where you can find our report and our online dashboard and lots of other information about the program. And that's it. I think you might be on mute, Donald.
Thank you. Sorry, I was talking to myself a bit there. Yeah, thanks very much for a great presentation. It really, I think, goes well with the NRCan and all the work that Edmonton is doing. It's helping just inform people start thinking about this and ways that it can be better and it can benefit them. So that is excellent. I think we're going to go straight into the next slides, into Ian's presentation, because I think there are some questions around weather normalization, how data is used, and those may be addressed significantly within Energy Star itself. But our plans for building energy benchmarking and campus energy benchmarking for this group would definitely address those. And that's part of the point, is to make it really meaningful, create meaningful data, create a really meaningful process so that when you enter data into Energy Star, you can use it for these other purposes. Lots of potential for accessing funding. But our partners, Climate Challenge Network, will make sure and have their process to make sure that data is really actually valuable to any participants who are part of the program. So you guys should be able to share if it's either Natalie. Yeah, there you go. Excellent.
Great, Donald, should we dive right in?
Yes, please, go ahead, thanks.
And by the way, thank you for leaving your microphone on mute a moment ago. Somebody has to do it at every meeting, and I was next up, so really, really happy you took that mantle on this time. Yeah, what we wanted to share is some of the work we've begun to do with colleges in Ontario, going beyond benchmarking as part of this overall move towards data-driven real progress with energy efficiency, real measurable progress, and the use of energy targets, which is, so we kind of characterize that benchmarking allows you to see where you're at and how you compare with peers, which is very motivational and a key step. Energy targets use the data to develop rational approaches to where you should be. So how much can you save? And that really is the door opener to effective action, to both quantify the savings potential for your campus, for your individual buildings, and also point to the action that it's appropriate to take. So it, again, takes you beyond benchmarking to the level of actually having a coherent data-driven action plan. So we'll walk through what we're up to and look forward to any questions. So, Natalie, next slide, please. So what Donald asked us to kind of work through is the whole idea of the benchmarks and how do the institutions that we've run data for already, how do they compare with each other, talk a bit about the purpose of targets, and the idea of you can calibrate your plan based on, is it good enough to get to top quartile in terms of comparison with peer facilities? Top decile is more aggressive. And to get to net zero, we have to go even beyond that. But the data, the starting data point is the comparison with other facilities and getting everybody to be as good as the upper levels within that. We'll talk about what the current targets, energy targets are for post-secondary facilities, different building types. We'll talk a bit about the achievable savings potential that comes out of that, which is of interest to utility companies and governments across the country, and give you a bit of a background about performance-based conservation, which is the terminology now being used in Ontario around data-driven energy conservation action. So, so that's what we're going to try to work through today. Natalie, next slide, please. And these are the metrics, look a lot like what Manny was showing us a moment ago for Edmonton. These are actually, I think, 26 of the colleges in Ontario and 3 in Alberta, which are the ones colored lighter, and gives a starting point of where targets come from. So these are targets that are normalized for weather differences. So this is taking all the Ontario facilities and effectively relocating them to Edmonton, and similarly the Calgary facilities relocating them to Edmonton. So this is a weather normalized, simple energy EUI comparison among all the facilities, where the ON1 at the top there is the most overall energy efficient. You can see the 3 Alberta facilities, and you can see what those numbers are in terms of equivalent kilowatt hours per square foot, which is the metric that we're using as the standard right now. Coming out of that are the median levels. So it's nice to know whether you're above or below the median. Top quartile becomes the level around 22.9 equivalent kilowatt hours per square foot that we calibrate the general programming for this kind of work to. The top decile is a more assertive target. The blue is electricity. The orange and yellow are the thermal energy components, mostly gas within this group. But this already gives a first indication, exactly as Marnie had shown us for the Edmonton buildings, are the ones at the top, which are worthy of study as to what are they doing differently. The ones further down towards the bottom, what are their opportunities for improvement? But again, keeping in mind, this is only adjusted for weather, not for other characteristics, where one of the bigger ones is on-site combined heat and power, cogeneration. There are a handful of these facilities that have cogeneration, and that would need to be and will be adjusted for in the overall approach. But the idea that we can pick on individual facilities and learn from them and provide targeted support is the goal here. The 3 Alberta facilities, in a previous conversation with them, they've agreed to share who they are. So the AB1, as it's coded here, is Norquest. AB2 is Mount Royal, and AB3 is NATE. And again, we're chatting with Donald about potentially expanding the number of facilities reporting into this database, and potentially taking it beyond Ontario and Alberta. For knowledge, we have presented this data to the Ontario colleges, and all of them know who they are on here, but with them at this point in time, we're keeping the actual which colleges, which we're keeping that anonymous, which is the way we generally function. The intent of these kind of programs is to celebrate and recognize the top performers and learn from them, and let the facilities further down the chart know where they stand and provide whatever advice and recommendations come out of the more in-depth data analytics to support them. But that's the starting point in terms of just the basic total energy use. Next slide, please, Natalie. Moving from EUI to targets is the stage of why would people want to do that. So as was mentioned earlier, you can only manage what you measure. RealPAC, the Real Estate Property Association of Canada, RealPAC first established targets for commercial office buildings countrywide, nationally back in 2009. It was done with Canada Green Building Council and BOMA. Performance-based conservation we'll touch on a bit towards the end. All of these things are driven by the idea that it's useful to know how you compare with peers, but it's also useful to have a first level estimation of what your savings potential is. So it provides that clear endpoint to create the business case for action. Stepping kind of beyond that, once you've identified the campuses with apparently the biggest savings potential, then the more in-depth analytics go deeper into component energy use, electricity versus gas, and base components versus weather-sensitive components, high peak demand. All of these things help zero in on which are the measures with the biggest savings potential. And above all of these metrics provide a basis for performance management for staff, for setting out performance-based service contracts with service providers. In other words, of setting the metrics, the goal for this is what we're all working towards. This is the kind of energy level that we should achieve. So targets merit is, again, to bridge beyond benchmarking to identify action and make the business case for investment. Next slide, please, Natalie.
Ian, we have questions in the chat. So you prefer answer now or later?
Let's take them towards the end to make sure we don't run out of time, and then we'll sort through them. But thank you for the prompt. As discussed already, depending on where you are, the starting point for everyone going down this path is always top quartile. If we can get every post-secondary institution to the top quartile of performers, having made appropriate adjustments, and we'll talk about that for site-specific situations. I see that some of the chat that's coming up on the screen. If we can get everybody to top quartile, in most building sectors, that generates in the range of 30 to 40% of greenhouse gas emission reductions. It's a huge number. It's bigger than all the policymakers' numbers we've been looking at come through. So just taking what we've got and running it efficiently, getting to the top quartile level is a massive step forward. Then top decile becomes available for those who are comfortably at the quartile level and want to go further. But the idea you can use the metrics to calibrate your targets and goals, which means you can also update those goals on an annual basis as different organizations become more comfortable with the progress they're making. Next slide, please, Natalie. The targets that we're using based on some information from the University of Calgary, you guys may recall that we put together the campus-wide plan, I think, back in 2015 or 16. But these are the current targets based on, this is based on, I think, Ontario. So everything gets weather normalized back. So the different building types that are reported by colleges in Ontario are listed on the left-hand side there. And from a variety of data sources from different campuses we've looked at over time. These are the current targets that we're using to compile the overall facility target. So depending on your mix of classrooms and residences and recreational facilities and so on, the software, the analytics very simply just develop a compiled target for the percentage breakdown between spaces. So if that breakdown doesn't exist, then 15.7 is the target based on Toronto, and that can be weather normalized to anywhere in North America. But these become the standard post-secondary targets as developed by space type. And the more sub-metering gets installed, the more data gets collected, the more these can be refined, each case looking for a top quartile level for the individual building type. So this is a constantly emerging and evolving data set, but these numbers, interestingly, over the last 5 years have stayed fairly consistent. Next slide, please. So your savings potential, both in terms of energy use, natural gas, electricity, utility costs, greenhouse gas emissions, is then computed very simply as the difference between your actual energy use intensity and the target energy use for your building located in its weather station, as Mark mentioned earlier. And that when you look again at the base and the weather sensitive components and look at the savings potential between the actual and target for each of those, so that requires monthly, that goes beyond annual data to monthly data. Each of those components will relate to specific energy systems. So having large savings potential in base thermal points to specific energy systems, in cooling electric points to different energy systems. So it both gives you the business case, the dollar reduction, the greenhouse gas reduction, but also points you in the right direction as to where your savings are most likely to be found. Next slide, please. And when those targets are applied, the chart juggles around a little bit. So it still follows the same shape. So for example, if we look at AB1, in this case, again, that's Norquest. AB1 by comparison with the whole data set thermally is extremely efficient. The savings potential at the top quartile level shows up only on electricity use. So that would be intended to provide some direction to Norquest as to where they would look further. If we look at AB2, we've mentioned already that's Mount Royal University. They have combined heat and power. So before getting too excitable about those initial numbers, adjustments would be made for combined heat and power. In other words, it would increase the target for gas consumption and lower the target for electricity consumption. And again, then give a more refined estimate of the savings potential and where that can point towards. But the little box in the middle, every time the numbers get run and adjusted for the different variables and any changes in weather over time, the total number of institutions here reporting is 26. The target savings there from the electric utility standpoint of 33% in terms of greenhouse gas emissions at 66,500 tons. And across these 26 facilities, there's on average about $1 million a year, but some per facility of savings potential with this framework for the energy targets. And again, those will get refined over time, and you've seen what's adjusted for so far. Weather, building type, not yet combined heat and power because we don't have that data for all of these campuses. Next slide, please. So this really captures, or attempts to capture what I think is the common theme throughout what we've heard from NRCan and the city of Edmonton here is there's a logical, data-driven, step-by-step flow around using data to strategically plan how much can you save, what is the emissions reduction potential, what is the utility cost savings potential, and turn this into a continuous loop where as you improve year after year, so everybody else is improving, so the targets become a little bit more positive. and it becomes an ongoing dynamic. And that we've listed a number of programs here that are working that way. In addition, there would be Civic Actions Race to Reduce that was using data again to progressively over time keep raising the bar, keep moving things forward, keep reflecting the fact that overall the sector is improving, so targets will improve accordingly. But I believe one or both of Calgary and the Edmonton school boards took part in the Sustainable Schools webinar a couple of months ago, which presented the ranking of all the school boards and the 72 school boards in Ontario, their relative energy efficiency. That now is unquestionably driving progress and bringing focus to utility company support. The Ministry of Education tracks those numbers, and all 5,000 schools in Ontario are benchmarked, targeted, and ranked against each other in a pretty robust methodology that's been going on for 5 weeks now. The Mayor's Megawatt Challenge, some of you will be familiar with. It's working with municipalities across the country with a real focus on ice rinks at the moment. Greening healthcare, the summer forum is on August the 11th, where there'll be hospitals from across North America taking part in sharing best practices that are derived from studying the most efficient hospitals out there, figuring out what makes them special, and then sharing that with everybody else in a kind of practical, targeted, directed way. So again, the idea of performance-based conservation is the umbrella under which this whole drive towards analytics, data-driven strategy, implementation, tracking improvements, and closing the loop, which drives this whole idea of continuous improvement over time. So next slide, please, Natalie. And that's it. So happy to get your feedback, and it's our favorite subject. So happy to discuss questions and protests and challenges, and as I think we're all looking to refine this approach. Everybody on this call has a massive challenge in terms of the size of their portfolios, the variety of the portfolios, and our belief is we can't get to the national and individual climate goals without making the best possible use of data, and that's the trajectory that we're trying to move down with this conversation today.
Excellent. Thanks, Ian, for a great presentation. It's really brought everything together, I think, in a way that kind of clarifies where we need to go. So, Natalie, there were some questions in the chat. Was there something you'd like to give Ian a chance to address, or?
I see the question, but it's about for any star portfolio management managers. Yeah. Then it's about COVID and the AirSci units. No, I don't think it's a question for. Okay, yeah, no, I want to make sure, because you mentioned that earlier, so I want to see, and I agree, I didn't think there was exactly, but we're right on time. Thanks very much for everybody being kind of able to keep those on time. What I can do potentially is, and keep, if there are questions, just let me know. I think that it kind of presents the case for why billing energy benchmarking is very useful. It's going to reduce costs. It's going to reduce emissions, which we all need desperately to do, and it really allows it in a systematic way by tracking our data. So you know, there's a lot of value to this kind of an initiative, and by making it specific to an industry, to post-secondaries, it only increases the value. What I can do is share the results of the survey, and thanks everybody for taking the time to go through that. I think there'd be questions that maybe come out of that. Yeah, thanks. So first question, does your institution have an energy emissions reduction management strategy? So 4 out of 9 do, and some 2 do, but could use some help, and no, but they would like to. So that's, you know, an excellent starting point. There's a lot of different variety of where institutions are at, and we can all help each other, you know, partly just motivating each other. Well, if they can do it, we can do it. But also, as we've seen in meetings like this, we can share how we approach things. Second question, does your campus currently collect
campus or building energy consumption data. So on a campus level, 78% do. On a building level, 67% do. So that's excellent. I know that's more of a challenge getting building level data, and plan to implement building metering. So I think that at the various stages, there's always more that you can collect or ways you can tweak that. I believe that at University of Calgary, there's a big project going on, probably similar to across other institutions. So we're always interested in hearing what experiences, what's happening, and how you're experiencing those things. So yeah, at some point in the future, I'd like to hear from those folks. Third question, what type of building would your campus expect to get the most value in studying in a post-secondary building energy benchmarking program? That was a long sentence. So administrative, I put some of the highlights up here. I don't know, if this, holds. There's obviously a lot of different other types of buildings, but maybe these are the most immediate. So administrative was high, classroom was higher, labs got 5 of 9, recreation is of value to some. There are other types of buildings, but I think that metering can happen only on a set number of buildings at a time. So if we all said, let's try to establish decent building energy benchmarking metering on administrative buildings or classrooms, we could focus on that and do that, and then systematically improve their performance efficiently. Question 4, does your campus plan to invest in building level metering in the short term? So it looks like in most years, a lot of institutions are investing in their metering, and in the longer term gets more and more. 2021, 2022, most institutions are. So that's great to see. And benchmarking program will ensure you get value out of that metering. It's not inexpensive to install or manage that data. So making sure you get the most out of it will, help prove to senior management that it was worth doing. 5, does your institution currently use Energy Star Portfolio Manager? So a little more than half do, and some don't. And there's lots of reasons for not doing it, lots of reasons for doing it. Obviously, as part of a program, we'd all want to get on board with that so we could help each other with that process. 6, does your utility facilitate direct transfer of billing data? And no, maybe it was a question that's obvious, but just this apps, no one does. And that seems to be a real possibility. And what I could see, the community of practice being able to do is start and reach out to our utilities. It's probably a relatively small number of them, and start lobbying with them, working with them to come up with a process and system that can work for all of us, because that would make it a lot easier to do this. It would take less time to upload data, become more reliable, and allow us to spend more time on analyzing rather than just creating data to input. 7, would your campus participate in a post-secondary focused energy program? Yes. Of course, I had to ask to see what our financial capacity is. It takes time to organize these events, and I'm hoping they're of value to participating institutions. And the building energy benchmarking could be a cornerstone of that. The savings that it could generate for each institution are quite significant. So it's a way to really add value. But I need to establish that it's worth trying to put some effort into it. What would your campus primary objective be? So there's a number of different objectives, in a way kind of focused, but it's good to see that reducing costs is important. And maybe it's just didn't realize you could choose multiple ones at that point. But the focus is on energy consumption and GHG emissions. So that's great to see. And the final question, an awards event. There's been a bit of a talk, and there's certainly some appetite, something similar to what the City of Edmonton does, but maybe if part of other events that facilities groups and post-secondaries are already participating in, where we could have some meaningful and kind of interesting awards, and usually around improvements, but maybe some interesting innovative projects as well. So yeah, I appreciate your folks interest in participating in those kinds of things, and you're answering those questions. Were there any other questions around those or points that anybody wanted to make? So if that's that, the last, wanted to do another poll here. It's a really quick one. No, it's not showing up. Okay, that's not going to show up. I was going to try to ask about what your priorities would be for our next meetings. In the minutes or in the agenda, I've got a whole bunch of different ideas for what we could do for next presentations or meetings. A follow-up could be on the building energy benchmarking. If there is enough interest, and it seems like there may be, to start actually pushing forward with figuring out exactly what the costs would be, depending on how many folks would want to participate and whatnot. But I may send out a poll separately. But that kind of gets through our agenda and all the different things. I did want to mention one of the things that we've been working on. I mentioned it briefly at the start. I have a minute or two here now, is around EV chargers. And that isn't always the folks that are in the room that are thinking about those, but we've had quite a bit of success with EV charger initiative in identifying new potential funding. I'm applying for a grant right now that I want to inform you about. It's with EcoTrust. And what that funding will want to do is actually engage students and faculty members to do research, do studies in a process often called Campus as a Living Lab, which is really well developed on some campuses like University of Calgary, and done really well on lots of other campuses, but I may not name that. And so if your campus may be interested in accessing funding to fund students to do research on EV chargers, on electrification, and it could be anything from engineering, where should those EV chargers be placed to have minimum costs and impact on grid infrastructure, to, not enough people are using electric vehicles, doing research into the obstacles to those kind of business cases or around fleet. So if you think there's a chance that your students might be interested in that, just let me know and I can make sure that I build the grant proposal so that the institutions that are interested will get that, potentially have access to that funding. And the second thing I want to mention briefly is, obviously, City of Edmonton and Calgary are doing really interesting things with energy benchmarking. There are other cities in our province who maybe would like to learn more about that. And I know we've talked about that. It'd be probably pretty straightforward to set up a meeting if you have some contacts or that would just want me to set up those meetings entirely. You could let me know who in the city to get a hold of in your municipality if they're not Edmonton or Calgary to talk about energy benchmarking. But that kind of concludes all the things I wanted to cover. If there's any other questions, you can stay on and I'll stay on for a bit and you can let me know. Or if you have questions that come up afterwards, I'll make sure that we've addressed the chat questions. I'll send those off, responses if we haven't responded to all those questions. But otherwise, thanks again for making time in August when I'm sure there's lots of other things to do. Really appreciate your time and look forward to seeing you again in November. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Donald.
Thanks, Don. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Don.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.